couldn't get out. They came over and they then wrestled with the two carjackers. One got away. We're looking for him right now, and I'll describe him in a second. A patrol officer was dispatched to the scene, and he was able to apprehend the carjacking suspect. I really want to point out that these workers who were doing some maintenance work inside the residential parking garage are heroes. They're to be commended for their quick action and not just being bystanders. They did a very noble, good thing this morning, and they put us, the police department, in a position to capture this young violent offender and bring him into custody. The second suspect who got away is described as a 15-year-old male wearing a dark jacket. He was last seen running towards Key Highway. We are following several leads regarding his identity, and it's our full intention to identify him as soon as possible and bring him into custody. You know, one of the trends that we've noticed this year is the robbery, is driving violence in the city. We just quadrupled the number of robbery detectives in Baltimore over the past several days to ensure that we have a bigger, better, more strategic focus on all types of robbery, whether it's a carjacking, whether it's a residential robbery, whether it's a citizen robbery, or whether it's a commercial robbery. We've been very successful throughout the year, particularly with these young, youthful robbery offenders, and some of them have been as young as 12, 13 years old, who have committed robberies. You all probably recall the bump and run robberies earlier this year. We were able to identify a group that was operating throughout the city committing those robberies. They're in custody. The challenging thing for law enforcement, really public safety in our community, is these youthful offenders charged as juveniles for a strong arm robbery. He'll be home before I'm home today. And that's something I think we all have to pay attention to. This young man charged with a strong arm robbery will be home before all of us are home today. And I think that requires the state to examine its juvenile justice laws and the challenges that they represent to public safety. So any questions, anything I missed that I can elaborate on?
Can you explain her role? Did she try to fight back, or what happened? They approached her and what?
So we all know Rikki Spector. I think she has a spirited, tenacious personality, and yeah, she resisted it. She absolutely resisted this robbery, and she told me and several other elected officials and police commanders as we visited her in the hospital that this was something that she was determined to not have happen to her right then and there. So if it's fight or flight with Rikki Spector, she's choosing fight, and she very did in a very colorful way described that to us this morning. She is in good spirits. She non-life-threatening injuries, thank God, but she was struck in the face with a fist by this young man at least once or twice, and she sustained some bruises and contusions to her face, and she's being treated at a local hospital. So she did resist, and in spite of that resistance, and in spite of her yelling to alert attention to what was going on, the young man still grabbed her, pulled her out of the car, slammed her on the ground, and punched her in the face.
What hospital is she at, and do we know her condition?
So I don't know that we typically give out the name of the hospital, but I do know that her condition is probably described.
And it looks like she might have just been released, actually.
Okay.
From speaking with the 15-year-old that you got detained, were you able to gather any information of how this all started, why, etc.?
We're still interviewing him. You know, we've encountered a lot of youthful robbery offenders this year. That's one of the trends of 2016. That's why we just quadrupled the number of robbery detectives, so we can have a more strategic focus on them. So we're going to interview and interrogate him, and undoubtedly we're going to lead to some information hopefully about this second suspect, so we can lock him up as well.